welcome to the third program of our series, American Folk Heroes of the 20th Century. As we have done in episodes 1 and 2, we will attempt to provide our adult audience with a glimpse of the not-too-distant past, while giving our younger viewers an introduction to a number of fascinating characters. By now, I hope you are familiar with the ground rules, which are the basis of our series. Let's take a few minutes to go over them. We are concerned first with the folk heroes, who are, by definition, fictional or imaginary characters. Secondly, we are concerned with the existing social environment at the time when our folk heroes first appeared. What year was it? What shape were we in economically? What types of entertainment were the most popular? We attempt to analyze any other information which might help to explain the appearance of a non-existent character who became a celebrity. Remember that each of our folk heroes thus far has come to us through a particular medium of communication. There are many types of communication. Storytelling was popular, especially in the previous century. Books have been an effective form of relating information since the invention of the Gutenberg press. And modern technology has given us radio, motion pictures, and television. Finally, in each program we present a sample of our hero. I might mention that these short presentations are all original. While we attempt to use the featured characters who supported our heroes, and we stylize the dramas as well to match the actual programs which fostered our heroes, the episodes you see on American Folk Heroes are entirely original. Today's folk hero emerged from a form of media which appeared in this 20th century. Cheered by children, condemned by adults, in spite of its mixed popularity, it developed and is still a source of entertainment for countless youngsters. The American comic book. This form of communication first appeared as a paperback magazine for boys, dating back to the turn of the century. A collection of stories, drawings, advertisements, etc. By the mid-1930s, it was apparent that the comic drawings in the magazine were the most popular. Captain Billy's Whiz Bang was the name of one of these softback publications, which gave up the printed stories and began to feature cartoon drawings alone. In 1938, two young artists named Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster developed a character for a new children's magazine, Action Comics. Their new hero proved popular with the younger crowd, with his blending of continuous activity and limitless imagination. Remember, this new character was appealing to kids who wore beanies and leather pilot caps, to a generation of youngsters who were accustomed to using their imaginations. They had practiced with hours of reading and listening to the sound of the family radio. Popular with young and old alike were the adventures of Flash Gordon and the serials of Buck Rogers. The Depression was almost a thing of the past, and it was fun to dream of the future. It is rare that a mythical hero can bridge a generation from one decade to the next. That pen and ink drawing of Siegel and Shuster was popular with boys and girls of the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even the 70s. As his popularity grew, he became a character of radio, motion pictures, and even television. Little boys and girls still try to imitate his limitless abilities, and some of the adults, they remember tying a table cover around their necks and stretching toward the clouds.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
Superman was the careful combination of those elements which were popular in many other folk heroes. Like the Shadow, Superman had a dual identity. He was, for the most part, Clark Kent, a mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Planet, a large newspaper in the city of Metropolis. As you remember, the Shadow was, in reality, Lamont Cranston. Like the dual identity of Don Diego de la Vega, who dressed in dramatic black to become Zorro, Clark Kent wore red, white, and blue when he appeared as Superman. Zorro, incidentally, first appeared in the early 1920s. In addition, artist-authors Siegel and Schuster also borrowed the superhuman, superpowered elements of Hugo Danner, a leading character in the novel Gladiator, which was published sometime earlier than the initial appearance of Superman. In spite of the fact that Adolf Hitler coined the phrase Superman to describe his powerful army, American youngsters took to this new folk hero. To say that the public response was favorable is something of an understatement. The Action Comics sold by the hundreds of thousands. The daily radio series attracted thousands of listeners, and 2 completed motion picture serials were made in the early 40s, all about the Man of Steel. Although by 1949 there were over 1,000 comic book heroes alone, this character stood out as a leader. Such continuing popularity carried him through live-action television to short animated films on Saturday mornings. But let's remember Superman as he was, in those days before the atom was split, before we conquered outer space, when comic book stories had plots instead of long fights. We are in the office of the Daily Planet.
That finishes the lead story, Jimmy. First National Bank robbed. Bank guards disappear mysteriously. Have you got the pictures ready?
Sure, Miss Lane. But I mean, how exciting can these photos be? After all, the only people around were the tellers and the vice president of the bank. There's still no sign of the missing bank guards.
I know that, Jimmy. But I've got a hunch that may land us a real scoop on how these guards have been disappearing. You rush this down to the press room and then meet me in Mr. Waite's office.
Are you really onto something, Miss Lane?
I think so, Jim. Hurry with that copy. I want to get to Mr. Waite before anyone else does.
Okay, Miss Lane, I'll meet you in Mr. White's office.
I don't care what he says. I have a newspaper to run here. No, he ain't got up blazes.
Let me guess. That was Mr. Bogle of the Metropolis Banking Association.
Yes, but don't worry, Bill. I won't ride roughshod over your department.
Thanks, Perry. But I've been hearing from both the commissioner and the mayor. They're upset at this third bank robbery, and even more upset that 3 more bank guards have disappeared. That makes a total of 14 men.
When you have no idea who's responsible for these robberies.
That's the real problem, Perry. We've got a very good idea who's at the bottom of this.
You have? Who?
Zoltan.
Great Caesar's ghost. I thought Zoltan was dead.
So did we, Perry. So did we. But eyewitnesses have picked Zoltan out of our mug books time after time. He's made no effort to conceal his identity with a mask. It must be Zoltan and his gang again.
Lord Zoltan went with mere armed robbery. It's not like him at all. He's usually connected with some harebrained scheme of epic proportion. You sure, Tim?
Quite sure, Perry. You see?
Yes. Who is it?
Are you really busy, Chief?
Of course I'm busy. I'm always busy.
This won't take but a few minutes. Hello, Inspector Henderson. I hope I'm not interrupting anything too important.
Not at all, Miss Lane. Won't you take my chair?
No, thank you, Inspector. I'll just be a moment.
What is it, Lois?
Chief, I have a great idea. It has to do with the robberies and the missing bank guards. You haven't come up with some new clues, have you, Inspector?
No. As a matter of fact,
What is it? What is going on here? Come in.
I got back as fast as I could, Miss Lane. Have I missed anything?
No, Jim. As a matter of fact, I was just about to explain my plan to Mr.
Good
White.
heavens, what's going on here? What plan were you going to explain to me, Miss Lane?
Okay, Chief. I've covered every one of these bank holdups with Jimmy. It seems that these robbers are operating in some sort of pattern. They've held up the 3 largest banks in Metropolis. Correct, Inspector?
You're so right, Miss Lane.
Well, then it would stand to reason that the Merchants National Bank would be next. It's one of the largest banks, and it hasn't been robbed yet.
Possibly, Lois, possibly. But your reasoning isn't all that good. Even if it is the next target, what do you plan to do?
I want you to let Jimmy and I go there for a few days on a stakeout. I want to be ready to really get the goods on Zoltan and...
How did you... I mean, what makes you think that Zoltan has anything to do with this?
Well, I thought... That is, I checked and...
You were eavesdropping again, Miss Lane?
Well, perhaps I was, Chief, but the idea was there even before I heard of Zoltan. You've got to give us the chance.
Too dangerous.
No, Mr. White, I'll be there. I'll protect Miss Lane.
Great Caesar's ghost. Some protection you'll be.
It's not that bad of an idea, Perry. As a matter of fact, we've assigned our own men to the Merchants National Bank. A detailed plainclothesman, that is.
You think he will strike there next?
Who knows for sure, but it's a good bet.
There, you see, Chief? There'll be extra men assigned to the bank. Jim and I will be safe, and the planet will get an exclusive on the capture of Zoltan.
Well, I don't know.
Aw, please, Mr. White.
Well, I suppose.
Thanks, Chief. Come on, Jim.
Olson, Lane, what's the use?
Hi, Clark.
What's that all about?
That's some initiative, Clark Kent. Not many of our reporters show around here.
Oh, I see. How are you, Inspector Henderson?
Fine, thanks.
Seriously, Mr. White, what are Lois and Jimmy up to?
They're going to the Merchants National Bank. Lois seems to think that's where Zoltan will...
Zoltan?
I didn't mean to say that, Kent.
That's quite all right, Perry. Everyone else seems to know around here.
Zoltan is dead.
Apparently not, Kent. Inspector Henderson here seems to have sufficient evidence to prove that Zoltan is still alive. He has some men staked out in Merchants National Bank.
Well, I better go along, just for protection.
You'll do no such thing. I need you here.
But, Chief...
No buts, Clark. There are plenty of Inspector Henderson's men there. The police will take care of it. In the meantime, get back to your office, and I have some things for you to check on.
All right, Chief. There's no guarantee that Zoltan will strike. And I guess Lois and Jimmy are safe.
Of course they are. Besides, how could you possibly be more protection than the police? Who do you think you are? Superman?
Anything to report, Jim?
4 days, Miss Lane, and all I have is a backache.
Don't complain. All I've done is copy the same deposit slip over and over. I've got the worst case of writer's cramp.
Do you think anyone will really try to hold up this bank? So far, it's been a complete washout.
Well, if we don't have any action today, we'll call it quits. Even Inspector Henderson has cut down the number of many stations here.
Well, my camera's still lit. Maybe we'll be lucky after all.
This is a stick-up!
Everyone stay where you are and no one will be hurt.
Drop that gun.
You come here, my dear. Now everyone stay where you are or you'll be very sorry.
You horrible creature!
Quiet, my dear.
What should I do with this janitor? I found him trying to take our picture.
That's no janitor. That's young Jim Olsen. He's a reporter for the Daily Planet.
What? How did you?
Did you think I would forget you, Olsen? Or Miss Lane?
You never get away with this, Zoltan!
We'll see, Miss Lane. So far, I've done quite well. And thanks to my disintegrator ray gun, we'll be doing even better.
We're finished, boss.
What should we do with these two?
Miss Lane and Mr. Olson wanted a story. Well, we'll take them along and give them one.
Oh, yes, and this is... What? Wait a minute. Can't get in here and double. Yeah, what happened? When? Well, call me and let me hear you.
What's up, Chief? Have they nabbed Zoltan?
Kent, it's incredible. They've managed to rob the Merchants National Bank somehow, and they've kidnapped Lois and Jimmy.
Great Scott.
They've definitely identified Zoltan and his gang, and they disintegrated another guard.
Where were the police?
They were helpless. With that weapon of Zoltan's and with Lois as a shield. But Kent, wait, I haven't told you everything. They've managed to follow Zoltan and his gang. They have him holed up in the Laurel Mountains. With that blasted gun of Zoltan's and with Lois and Jimmy, they can't get too close.
We've got to try. I'm going after them.
Well, all right, but no heroics. Stay behind the police lines.
Of course they are. But they'll not be bothering us. They fear for Miss Lane and young Olson. And they fear for themselves.
What are we going to do with these reporters?
Silence! How rude. These are our guests. At least for the time being.
You'll never get away with this.
Want to bet?
What's that? It's over there, please.
Superman!
Ha! You walked into a trap, Superman. Hey, boys. Don't just stand there. Get him. Superman. Maybe you can lick those three. But you can never overcome my disintegrator ray gun. I'm gonna steal. Work. Why don't you work? Work. Gun is pointed at me. No!
This should an end to your disintegrator ray gun, Zoltan. Once and for all. Now, Zoltan, it's off to jail for you.
Stronger, braver, more powerful than any mortal man, and he could fly. Superman's popularity lasted through 3 decades. Although he was a folk hero primarily designed for children, there are many adults who have fond memories of listening or reading of his exploits. How well do you think you've listened to this program? Do you remember the year that Superman first appeared? How about the creators of the Man of Steel? Do you remember their names? For fun, try to answer the questions on our short follow-up quiz. You'll be surprised to see what you really learned. This has been the third program of our series. I hope you will join us for our next episode in American Folk Heroes of the 20th Century. Until then, this is Janice Bross wishing you the best of everything.